Oh, well, I think we've actually gone live, which is a good thing, and I am going to find the links for the actual live feed so that I can help people to find their way around. So if you'll bear with me, that's what I'll be doing over the next moments. And we have, hello, we've got Daniel and Adam, that's excellent. Welcome to you. Obviously, I am there and visible. I am there and visible. And now I managed to capture the precise URL so I can send that out. Quiz night now live at. I'll paste that in. Excellent. Oh, there's a picture of me. Isn't that wonderful? And I'll do the same on Twitter. Hello, we've got Pauline and John. We've got Linda. Very good to see you all. I'll put this up. Quiz night now live at, and put the URL in and send that off. Brilliant. I'll get off Twitter and put myself back up on screen so I can actually see what I'm doing and what you are seeing. I've become far more sophisticated since last time. We've got Colin and Suzanne, we've got Rebecca Landers, that's brilliant. I've been more sophisticated than last time. What you can now do is, if you wish, you can make comments by email to vicar@crookedspire.org. You can make comments in the live chat. You can also make comments on the Facebook page underneath the post, which I have in front of me. So I've got quite a number of things in front of me, and all of those things I'll be able to see you on, which is great. Let me just make that a little smaller so that I can look at the emails, and all the email tells me is that Quiz Night is live on the channel. We've got Kathy, Joe and Chloe, that's brilliant. We've got Helen Phipps, that's great. It did used to tell you how many were online. I've got 6 online, I think. Concurrent viewers, chat rate, playback 17. I've got stream settings. What have we got? Chat rate, playbacks. I think concurrent viewers will do. That will tell me that. I've got the stream settings, analytics, stream health is excellent. I'm hoping you're seeing a decent picture. Can I have some feedback, please, because I'm using different technology? Can I have some feedback on whether you can hear me well and whether the picture is good? I expect if you can hear me well, you'll give me the feedback. Since I can't send you, I can send a message if I want. Let me put up on there. Can we have some feedback, please? on the quality of picture and sound. Thanks. Put that up. All good, nice library, yes. All very good, thanks. It's just I wanted to check because we've got the Barons here. I just wanted to double check about the sound and the picture because we've got Ted and Judy Stevens, because as I was saying, I'm using different technology tonight. So we've gone more complex and I hope higher quality. That's what the aim of the exercise is. It's certainly using the CPU. We've got nearly 50% use of the CPU. Sound is good and I can nearly read all your book titles. That's good. Good picture quality and sound. That's great. Got you on the TV. Oh, how exciting. If I'm on the TV, have you got a license for watching Vickers on the TV? I can see we've got a dog who's come in. Hello. You can lie down if you want. But if you lie down, don't fart. This is the windiest dog I have ever come across. Sound and picture excellent. Oh, excellent. Good. Good. I'll have a look and see what time it is. Time is coming up to 7:30. We'll give it a couple of minutes over 7:30 just to let people... Oh, we've got two dogs in here. That was Millie. Oh, well. Hello, Millie. Can you see Millie in the background? Millie exists. Some people don't think Millie exists because Millie goes hiding. But Millie exists. And Millie is... Are you going to come in, Millie? Millie, sit. Millie, sit. Millie, sit. Millie, sit. No, Millie's gone away. Oh dear. Now Louie's going to do something. No, Millie's come in. Hello, Millie. And Millie's tail was up too. I don't know what they think. What can you be thinking? What can you be thinking? They're going to come and go all the way through the evening. All the way through the evening. You are being watched. Yes. Well, we are coming up to 7:30. We are now, according to my watch, on 7:30. According to the accurate clock on the telephone, we're at 7:30. So we'll have a 1 minute countdown. We've got Rowena has joined us. That's excellent. It's great to see you all. And we've got concurrent viewers 19, which is good. We've got EHOP. Oh, hello EHOP. Nice to see you. I hope you and Audrey will have a lovely evening competing with each other. We've now got 20 online. That's beginning to get reasonably full. I hope you'll enjoy the quiz this evening. I'll remind you of the format. There are 10 rounds, and I've actually put this up on the blurb in YouTube this time. There are 10 rounds. The rounds each have a title. There are 10 questions in each round. After the first 5 rounds, we'll have a break for comfort and for tea making or getting a drink of some sort. And then after the 10th round, we will have another short break, and then we'll have the answers. So we'll see how that goes. And I think it's now... Oh, we've got the Waltons, excellent, and it's now 2 minutes past 7:30, so I think it's probably time for us to start. So here we are, here we go with Choir Quiz Night 2020, round, episode, whatever you like, 11 for... Oh, we've got the balls in Chesterfield and Bedford, that's brilliant. So we've got the first round, which some people asked to veto, but I'm sorry you can't. The first round is Donald Trump. Okay, and you may, from the first question, see what the lines of questioning are going to be like. So round 1 is Donald Trump. Question 1, What colour is Donald Trump's complexion generally considered to be? What colour is Donald Trump's complexion generally considered to be? I know over the last 2 weeks that it has been very white, but what colour is it generally considered to be? Well, that's the first question. The second question: what is the name of Mr. Trump's current wife? What is the name of Mr. Trump's current wife? What is the name of his current wife? Question 3. What is the name of Mr. Trump's business headquarters in New York? What is the name of Mr. Trump's business headquarters in New York? What's the name of his business HQ in New York? Question 4. Which reality show did Mr. Trump host? Which TV reality show did Mr. Trump host? I'll give you a clue. It was hosted by Alan Sugar in the UK, as he didn't end up being Prime Minister. Question 5. What is the name of Mr. Trump's golf resort business? What is the name of Mr. Trump's golf resort business? If you don't know the answers to these, you'll discover, and maybe you'll take this as a clue, you'll discover that they're not very imaginative. What is the name of Mr. Trump's golf resort business? Question 6. Who is due to replace Mr. Trump as President of the United States of America in January 2021? Who is due to replace Mr. Trump as President of the United States of America in January 2021? So, who is due to replace him as President in January 2021? Question 7. Is Mr. Trump happy with this? Is Mr. Trump happy with this? That's an easy question. It's yes or no. Is Mr. Trump happy with this? Question 8. Last year I visited this place. Which little wine-producing village in Germany is the home of Mr. Trump's ancestors? Which little wine-producing village in Germany is the home of Mr. Trump's ancestors? As I say, I visited it. I discovered when I researched it that it was supposed to be the home of the Trump ancestors. I also discovered that they were very embarrassed about it. But it doesn't stop them producing extremely good wine, very expensive wine from the private sellers, but very good value from the local cooperative. I brought rather a lot of it back with me. It didn't last very long. Which little wine-producing village in Germany is the home of Mr. Trump's ancestors? Question 9. What was the name of Mr. Trump's father? What was the name of Mr. Trump's father? I simply want his forename or Christian name. What was the name of Mr. Trump's father? And question 10. What legal procedure is likely to take place once Mr. Trump is no longer in office? What legal procedure is likely to take place once Mr. Trump is no longer in office? So I'll go back over those questions in case you've missed any. What colour is Donald Trump's complexion generally considered to be? What is the name of Mr. Trump's current wife? What is the name of Mr. Trump's business headquarters in New York? Which reality show did Mr. Trump host? What is the name of Mr. Trump's golf resort business? Who is due to replace Mr. Trump as President of the United States of America in January? Is Mr. Trump happy with this? Which little wine-producing village in Germany is the home of Mr. Trump's ancestors? What was the name of Mr. Trump's father? And what legal procedure is likely to take place once Mr. Trump is no longer in office? So that's round 1 done, Mr. Trump. Round 2 is plumbing. And question 1, going on from the American theme, what is the UK term for what Americans call a faucet? What is the UK term for what Americans call a faucet? It's quite difficult to comment on that without giving it away, so I'll simply repeat it once more. What is the UK term for what the Americans call a faucet? Question 2. Prior to the widespread use of copper and plastic, what were water pipes usually made of? Prior to the widespread use of copper and plastic, what were water pipes usually made of? Ever since Roman times, actually. What were water pipes usually made of before the widespread use of copper and plastic? Question 3. What were over-sink or over-bath water heaters commonly known as? What were over-sink or over-bath water heaters commonly known as? These things went very much out of fashion in the 70s, and a lot of them were junked when North Sea gas came in because they weren't worth converting. And yet the combi boiler, which is very fashionable now, is just a version of these things, giving on-demand hot water. What were over-sink or over-bath water heaters commonly known as? Question 4. What is used to remove airlocks from a radiator? What is used to remove airlocks from a radiator? It takes me back to A-level Latin, which we did in the small classics room, which had more books in it than pupils. There were loads of books in there, and it was in a wing of the school with very old heating. The place will get cold from time to time. We thought the Latin teacher was being very rude when he said, "Does anybody able to go and find me a bleeding key?" So we thought he was being rude, and I've just given you the answer. So there you are, there's a free answer because I wasn't thinking. What is used to remove airlocks from a radiator? Question 5. In which country were flush lavatories first used? In which country were flush lavatories first used? We have 26 concurrent viewers at the moment, which is great. In which country were flush lavatories first used? Question 6. Who held the first patent for the floating ball cock? Who held the first patent for the floating ball cock? Not something our Latin teacher did talk about, so we didn't think he was being rude talking about that. Who held the first patent for the floating ball cock? Question 7. What is the best known opportunistic premises plumbing pathogen? What is the best known opportunistic premises plumbing pathogen? That's a good one. You'll kick yourselves when you hear the answer to this if you don't get it. What is the best known opportunistic premises plumbing pathogen? And to go from the sublime to the ridiculous, question 8, or the other way round, why did Flanders and Swan call in the gas man? Why did Flanders and Swan call in the gas man? In the song The Gas Man Cometh. Why did Flanders and Swan call in the gas man? Question 9, a little bit of local knowledge. What make of boiler is manufactured in Clay Cross? What make of boiler is manufactured in Clay Cross? According to which it is also the most reliable make of boiler. What make of boiler is manufactured in Clay Cross? And question 10, what is the common name for the outfall from a water closet? What is the common name for the outfall from a water closet? Bear in mind this is a plumbing round, so it's what the outfall is called, not the contents of the outfall. What is the common name for the outfall from a water closet? And go back over those questions. What is the UK term for what Americans call a faucet? Prior to the widespread use of copper and plastic, what were water pipes usually made of? What were over-sink or over-bath water heaters commonly known as? What is used to remove airlocks from a radiator? In which country were flush lavatories first used? Who held the first patent for the floating ball cock? What is the best known opportunistic premises plumbing pathogen? Why did Flanders and Swan call in the gas man? Oh, it all makes work for the working man to do. Bum, bum, bum. What make of boiler is manufactured in Clay Cross? And what is the common name for the outfall from a water closet? The contents, sorry, not the contents, the name of the outfall. Okay, round 3 is a little bit more niche. It is on Ealing Comedies, and you've had these for quite a while, so you could have done your revision on this. Question 1. Which was the first comedy film made in Ealing Studios following the Second World War? Which was the first comedy film made in Ealing Studios following the Second World War? Oh dear. Which was the first comedy film made in Ealing Studios following the Second World War? Question 2. You might be able to guess this if you don't know. Why are the 2 Welsh coal miners up in London in a run for your money? Why in a run for your money are the 2 Welsh coal miners up in London? Why are they up in London? Question 3. Who wrote the screenplay for Whiskey Galore? Clue, it was a proper author, not just a screenplay writer. Who wrote the screenplay for Whiskey Galore? Question 4. How many different characters did Alec Guinness play in Kind Hearts and Coronets? How many different characters did Alec Guinness play in Kind Hearts and Coronets? Showing both his versatility as an actor and also the budgets on which these comedies were produced. How many characters did Alec Guinness play in Kind Hearts and Coronets? Question 5. What did the Lavender Hill mob do with their haul of gold bullion? What did the Lavender Hill mob do with their haul of gold bullion? At the end of it, the Alec Guinness figure ends up in South America telling the story, and the only one that got away with any of this gold bullion, and then he leaves at the end, and it's noticeable that the person he's been talking to over the meal has him in handcuffs. Poor man. What did the Lavender Hill mob do with their haul of gold bullion? Question 6. This is my favourite one. Which Ealing comedy was inspired by the success of the Talyllyn Railway? Which Ealing comedy was inspired by the success of the Talyllyn Railway? The Talyllyn was the first preserved railway in the very early 1950s, and it inspired one of the Ealing comedies. I'd like to know which one. Question 7. What dangerous invention features in The Man in the White Suit? What dangerous invention features in The Man in the White Suit? What dangerous invention features in The Man in the White Suit? Question 8. On what play was Meet Mr. Lucifer based? On what play was Meet Mr. Lucifer based? Meet Mr. Lucifer was about the acquisition of a television set which brought nothing but evil to all the families that it was passed on to. It was seen as an invention of the devil in the play, in the film, and the film was based on a play actually written by Arnold Ridley, who was Private Godfrey in Dad's Army. So I'd like to know what the name of the play was on which Meet Mr. Lucifer was based. Question 9. In The Lady Killers, who is it that ends up with all the money? In The Lady Killers, who is it that ends up with all the money? Who ends up with all the money in The Lady Killers? And question 10. Who now owns Ealing Studios? Who now owns Ealing Studios? So I'll go back over those. Which was the first comedy film made in Ealing Studios following the Second World War? Why are the two Welsh coal miners up in London in A Run for Your Money? Who wrote the screenplay for Whiskey Galore? How many characters did Alec Guinness play in Kind Hearts and Coronets? What did the Lavender Hill mob do with their haul of gold bullion? Which Ealing comedy was inspired by the success of the Talyllyn Railway? What dangerous invention features in The Man in the White Suit? On what play was Meet Mr. Lucifer based? In The Lady Killers, who ends up with all the money? And the last question in that round, who now owns Ealing Studios? So we'll move on to round 4, which is Boris Johnson. Again, there was an attempt made to veto this round, which I have resisted. Question 1 then. What is the name of Mr. Johnson's book on Churchill? Which is actually on Mr. Johnson, but never mind. What is the name of Mr. Johnson's book, which is purportedly about Churchill? What is the name of the book? Question 2. Mr. Johnson is alleged to have received a £500,000 advance for a book on whom? Rumour has it that's one of the reasons he's disappeared from time to time during the pandemic, is that he's been writing this book for which he's already received £500,000. Mr. Johnson is alleged to have received a £500,000 advance for a book on whom? Question 3. What is Mr. Johnson's first name, by which he was actually known until he went to Eton, when he chose to be called by his second name, which is obviously Boris. What is Mr. Johnson's first name? Question 4. Which club for well-dressed young thugs did he join at Oxford together with David Cameron? Which club for well-dressed young thugs did he join at Oxford together with David Cameron? Famous picture of them together. Question 5. How many of Mr. Johnson's new routemasters were built? How many of Mr. Johnson's new routemasters were built? Did you know that the new routemasters all have air conditioning, which doesn't work very well in the summer, so it is as hot as hell in there, especially on the top deck, where because of the air conditioning you can't open the windows. And when he was asked why the air conditioning didn't work, he said it was meant to be like that. So there you are. How many of these new routemasters were built? Question 6. In which country was Mr. Johnson born? In which country was Mr. Johnson born? Question 7. Which newspaper sacked Mr. Johnson in 1987 for inventing a quote? Which newspaper sacked Mr. Johnson in 1987 for inventing a quote? Question 8. What proportion of the required parliamentary votes did Mr. Johnson attend in his first term as MP for Henley? What proportion of the required parliamentary votes did Mr. Johnson attend in his first term as MP for Henley? Bearing in mind that the work of an MP is not just to talk and represent or talk to constituents, it's also to vote in Parliament. What proportion of the votes which he was required to attend did he actually attend? Question 9. Which Conservative Party leader appointed Mr. Johnson as party vice chairman and then sacked him for publicly lying? Which Conservative Party leader appointed Mr. Johnson as party vice chairman and then sacked him for publicly lying? And question 10. What did Mr. Johnson do at the end of his first 3 weeks as Mayor of London? What did Mr. Johnson do at the end of his first 3 weeks as Mayor of London? So I'll go back over those. What is the name of Mr. Johnson's book on Churchill? Mr. Johnson is alleged to have received a £500,000 advance for a book on whom? What is Mr. Johnson's first name? What club for well-dressed young thugs did he join at Oxford together with David Cameron? How many of Mr. Johnson's new routemasters were built? In what country was Mr. Johnson born? Which newspaper sacked Mr. Johnson in 1987 for inventing a quote? What proportion of the required parliamentary votes did Mr. Johnson attend in his first term as MP for Henley? Which Conservative Party leader appointed Mr. Johnson as party vice chairman and then sacked him for publicly lying? And finally, what did Mr. Johnson do at the end of his first 3 weeks as Mayor of London? Okay, we'll move on to round 5, which is socialism. And the first question is, which movement peaking in I'll start that again. Which movement, peaking in 1838, is seen as the forerunner of the trade union and cooperative societies? Which movement that peaked in 1838 is seen as the forerunner of the trade union and cooperative societies? I'll give you a clue. As a child of the valleys of South Wales, this movement was very dear to valleys historians and to people of Gwent and Monmouthshire generally. Which movement, peaking in 1838, is seen as the forerunner of the trade union and cooperative societies? Question 2. You might be able to guess this if you don't know. What sort of socialist was the priest and professor F.D. Morris? What sort of socialist was the priest and professor F.D. Morris? An educated guess would work with this one. What sort of socialist was the priest and professor F.D. Morris? Question 3. Where in France was the first commune set up in 1871? Where in France was the first commune set up in 1871? Question 4. Who was elected honorary president of the Second International in 1893? Hello, Millie. Who was elected honorary president of the Second International in 1893? You may be able to guess this one. And it wasn't Marx. There you are. Look, you can see Millie exists. Lots of people don't think Millie exists because she goes into hiding when anybody gets anywhere near. But there she is, looking around in the background. Are you having a good sniff, Millie? You a good girl? Hello? Hello? Okay, question 5. What development of socialism was launched in many parts of the world as a result of the Russian Revolution? What development of socialism was launched in many parts of the world as a result of the Russian Revolution? This is what Marx saw as being the development, the perfection of socialism. What development of socialism was launched in many parts of the world as a result of the Russian Revolution? Question 6. Where was a successful socialist revolution led by Fidel Castro? Where was a successful socialist revolution led by Fidel Castro? Question 7. Who was the last General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union? Who was the last General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union? Who was the last General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union? Question 8. In which year did the British Labour Party remove the radical parts of Clause 4? In which year did the British Labour Party remove the radical parts of Clause 4? This will be in the memory of many of you. When was Clause 4 eviscerated of all its socialist content? Question 9. What neo-Trotskyist group was set up to support the cause of Jeremy Corbyn? I'll probably get my house blown up for calling it neo-Trotskyist. What neo-Trotskyist group was set up to support the cause of Jeremy Corbyn? But of course, if they blow my house up, they'll prove the point. What neo-Trotskyist group was set up to support the cause of Jeremy Corbyn? And question 10, some local knowledge here. Where was the Derbyshire Miners' holiday camp? Where was the Derbyshire Miners' holiday camp? So I'll go back over that round and then we'll have a break. Which movement, peaking in 1838, is seen as the forerunner of the trade union and cooperative societies? What sort of socialist was the priest and professor F.D. Morris? Where in France was the first commune set up in 1871? Who was elected honorary president of the Second International in 1893? What development of socialism was launched in many parts of the world as a result of the Russian Revolution? Where was a successful socialist revolution led by Fidel Castro? Who was the last General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union? In which year did the British Labour Party remove the radical parts of Clause 4? What neo-Trotskyist group was set up to support the cause of Jeremy Corbyn? And where was the Derbyshire miners' holiday camp? So that's the first half of the quiz done. I'm very happy for you via Facebook or email or via the chat to ask for a repetition of any of the questions. I'm going to go and make myself a cup of tea now, and I'm sure you will go and get yourself whatever you fancy drinking tonight. I'm afraid that after all the stuff to do with the arranging the things for the second lockdown, my brain is in such a state that if I had a glass of wine I wouldn't get through the the second half of the quiz. So it's a cup of tea and I'll be back soon. Oh, I see. I'm going to have to deduct some points from people who are trying to get extra points. I see. Hello, Audrey. If everybody would like to, those who are looking at the comments, you've seen Life of Oscar. Do they get any extra points? I think we should put that to a popular vote. One of the nice things about having a cup of tea is that a chocolate biscuit goes very nicely with it. Oh, we've got Jack. Hello, Jack. Welcome. We have 28 viewers at the moment, or 28 places where there's being viewed. No wine. It's a nice cup of tea, though.
So.
Well, that was my phone, which I need to turn off. No, Judy, it's not a wagon wheel. It's one of those ludicrously expensive, completely covered digestive biscuits which you can get in Marks and Spencer's. We bought some Tesco Ruby Port after it came up in a previous quiz. Yes, it came up in a previous quiz because that's what we use for the communion wine at the Crooked Spire. After a process of trying quite a lot of things out and finding out what what didn't get any complaints. Okay, I hope we're ready to go. I'm going to move on then to round 6, which is pies and stews. Now, I do realise that the answers to some of these questions may be controversial, but the adjudicator's word is final. Question 1. What component is essential for a top quality pork pie? What component is essential for a top quality pork pie? Pork pie hasn't got this, it's not worth buying. What component is essential for a top quality pork pie? Question 2. What type of stew contains lamb and has baked slices of potato on top? What type of stew contains lamb and has baked slices of potato on top? What type of stew contains lamb and has baked slices of potato on top? Question 3. What Welsh soup or stew also contains lamb? What Welsh soup or stew also contains lamb? So this is a traditional Welsh soup or stew, depending on how thick it is, and it contains lamb. Question 4. Where is the artisan pie maker pie minister based? Where is the artisan pie maker pie minister based? I notice they have a restaurant in Sheffield, which I've never been to visit. I've bought their pies from time to time and never been all that impressed with them. And then it's quite difficult to, if you have a bought pie, to impress me, especially certain supermarkets which sell half-empty pies. There's nothing worse than a pie which isn't full. Where is the artisan pie maker pie minister based? Question 5. What sort of pie is traditionally served in the United States for Thanksgiving? What sort of pie is traditionally served in the United States for Thanksgiving? Question 6. Which animal's kidney is traditionally used for steak and kidney pie? Which animal's kidney is traditionally used for steak and kidney pie? Question 7. What pie features in the nursery rhyme "Sing a Song of Sixpence"? There are 24 of something baked in a pie. What pie features in the nursery rhyme "Sing a Song of Sixpence"? You'd have a job getting this pie these days. Question 8. What was Desperate Dan's favourite pie? What was Desperate Dan's favourite pie? What was Desperate Dan's favourite pie? Question 9. Which stew, usually of beef, is cooked in dark beer and grew out of the warming stews cooked by charcoal burners? What stew, usually of beef, is cooked in dark beer and grew out of the warming stews cooked by charcoal burners? And you'll find this stew all over the continent in places where there is forestry and where there used to be charcoal making. And question 10. What animal is traditionally stewed in the autumn in northern Italy? What animal is traditionally stewed in the autumn in northern Italy? And delicious it is too. Okay, we go back then over the questions. What component is essential for a top quality pork pie? What type of stew contains lamb and has baked slices of potato on top? What Welsh soup or stew also contains lamb? Where is the artisan pie maker pie minister based? What sort of pie is traditionally served in the United States for Thanksgiving? What animal's kidney is traditionally used for steak and kidney pie? What pie features in the nursery rhyme "Sing a Song of Sixpence"? What was Desperate Dan's favourite pie? Which stew, usually of beef, is cooked in dark beer and grew out of the warming stews cooked by charcoal burners? And the final question, what animal is traditionally stewed in the autumn in northern Italy? Okay, round 7 is worms and feathered fowls, which is a phrase from the Psalms, and it takes you back into German and Anglo-Saxon because worms isn't actually worms in the ground. It's, by worms in this context, is actually meant dragons and similar creatures which carry the same name as a worm, a worm. So the round reflects that, and that's why the psalm has feathered fowls together with worms, not because the feathered fowls eat the worms, but because they fly in the air with the worms. Okay, question 1. Which psalm contains the phrase worms and feathered fowls? Which psalm contains the phrase worms and feathered fowls? Question 2. Which nonsense rhyme by Lewis Carroll is based on the County Durham legend of the Sockburn worm? What nonsense rhyme by Lewis Carroll is based on the County Durham legend of the Sockburn worm? Apparently, when they were still Bishop Princes of Durham, they had to be presented with the weapon which had killed this Sockburn worm, and there was a ceremony for it. I'm not sure whether Bishops of Durham still have to do that. Question 3. What is the difference between a wyvern and a conventional dragon? What is the difference between a wyvern, which is spelled W-Y-V-E-R-N, and a conventional dragon? The difference between a wyvern and a conventional dragon. Question 4. And we get to modern day worms. Which carnivorous worm is a present threat in the United Kingdom to the common earthworm? Which carnivorous worm is a present threat in the United Kingdom to the common earthworm? It likes to eat other things as well, slugs and snails, which is no doubt nice for gardeners, but eating earthworms isn't a good thing for gardeners. Which carnivorous worm is a present threat in the UK to the common earthworm? Question 5. What rare bird appeared in Chesterfield in 2015? What rare bird appeared in Chesterfield in 2015? What rare bird appeared in Chesterfield in 2015? Question 6. What bird is traditionally eaten at Thanksgiving and Christmas? What bird is traditionally eaten at Thanksgiving and Christmas? Now, question 7 will get you going. A group of which sort of bird is known as a kettle? A group of which sort of bird is known as a kettle? One of the things we had to learn in primary school was collective nouns. You go through all these strange collective nouns for different types of animal and bird and different sorts of human beings. And I want to know the collective noun for... Sorry, I nearly gave you the answer. I want to know which type of bird has a collective noun, a kettle. A kettle of what? Question 8. What does the early bird catch? What does the early bird catch? Question 9. Who owns all the swans in England? Who owns all the swans in England? And question 10. Why is the Welsh dragon portrayed asleep? Why is the Welsh dragon portrayed asleep? Traditionally, the Welsh dragon is portrayed curled up, asleep. Why? Okay, I'll go back over that. Which psalm contains the phrase worms and feathered fowls? What nonsense rhyme by Lewis Carroll is based on the County Durham legend of the Sockburn worm? What is the difference between a wyvern and a conventional dragon? Which carnivorous worm is a present threat in the UK to the common earthworm? What rare bird appeared in Chesterfield in 2015? What bird is traditionally eaten at Thanksgiving and Christmas? A group of which sort of bird is known as a kettle? What does the early bird catch? Who owns all the swans in England? And why is the Welsh dragon portrayed asleep? Round 8 is clouds. Question 1. What usually falls out of a nimbus? What usually falls out of a nimbus? What usually falls out of a nimbus? Question 2. What is the usual name for thunderclouds? What is the usual name for thunderclouds? Fascinating, if you fly over the Alps, you can see these clouds because they have pillars rising in the middle of them, which are part of the thunderstorm. Sometimes you can see the thunder flashing in them, and you're a long way over them, obviously. What is the usual name for thunderclouds? Question 3. Which clouds form a mackerel sky? Which clouds form a mackerel sky? Because of the position of Chesterfield, we very often get mackerel skies here. Which clouds form a mackerel sky? Question 4. What sort of cloud forms the low, dark and dull sky often associated with late autumn? What sort of cloud forms the low, dark, dull sky often associated with late autumn? Question 5, also often associated with late autumn. How is cloud designated when it forms at ground level? How is cloud designated when it forms at ground level? That should be easy. Question 6. Who wrote the first known study of clouds and weather? Who wrote the first known study of clouds and weather? Question 7. Which latitudes tend to have the least in the way of cloud? Which latitudes tend to have the least in the way of cloud? It's because ridges of high pressure tend to dominate over those latitudes, and the clouds are pushed away by the high pressure. Which latitudes tend to have the least in the way of cloud? Question 8. What is the outer cloud deck of Jupiter made up of? What is the outer cloud deck of Jupiter made up of? There are several layers known as cloud decks in the cloud cover of Jupiter, and the outer cloud deck is made up of what? Question 9. What gave the lead for the departing Israelites during the Exodus? What gave the lead for the departing Israelites during the Exodus? And question 10. Which pollutant can make clouds look yellow? Which pollutant can make clouds look yellow? Very interesting. If you've looked at a sunset over a city with a lot of pollution, you'll see a great range of beautiful colours. Sometimes you see yellow clouds, and which pollutant makes clouds look yellow? So we go back over the questions. What usually falls out of a nimbus? Hello, Mary. What is the usual name for thunderclouds? Which clouds form a mackerel sky? What sort of cloud forms the low, dark, dull sky often associated with late autumn? How is cloud designated when it forms at ground level? Who wrote the first known study of clouds and weather? Which latitudes tend to have the least in the way of cloud? What is the outer cloud deck of Jupiter made up of? What gave the lead for the departing Israelites during the Exodus? And which pollutant can make clouds look yellow? Louis, sit. Louis, sit. Now you'll have to wait. Okay, we'll move on then to round 9, which is weaponry. Question 1. What is a trebuchet? What is a trebuchet? Used in medieval sieges. What is a trebuchet? You may be able to guess on the basis of medieval sieges. Think of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Question 2. In what country was gunpowder developed? In what country was gunpowder developed? Question 3. Which weapon gave the English and Welsh the advantage in the Battle of Crecy? Which weapon gave the English and Welsh the advantage in the Battle of Crecy? Question 4. Moving from the past to the present. What is the difference between a nuclear and a thermonuclear bomb? What is the difference between a nuclear and a thermonuclear bomb? What is the difference between a nuclear and a thermonuclear bomb? Question 5. What was the name of the UK's first nuclear weapon? What was the name of the UK's first nuclear weapon? Question 6. How long was a traditional wooden police truncheon? Used as a standard item of kit until 1990. How long was a traditional wooden police truncheon? These days they have various different replacements for that. How long was a traditional wooden police truncheon? Question 7. Who in Shakespeare's plays speaks the words, "Is this a dagger I see before me"? Who in Shakespeare's plays speaks the words, "Is this a dagger I see before me"? There's a question. There are people who ask for questions on Shakespeare. There's your Shakespeare question. Who in Shakespeare's plays speaks the words, "Is this a dagger I see before me"? Question 8. Which city was attacked in the first instance of carpet bombing in March 1938? Which city was attacked in the first instance of carpet bombing in March 1938? Carpet bombing is an abhorrent practice which was perfected by the Luftwaffe and put into practice very much by Bomber Harris in revenge, and was used very much also by the US in Vietnam with B-52s. But what was the first instance of carpet bombing in March 1938? Which city was it that was attacked? Question 9. Shotguns usually fire cartridges containing pellets, but sometimes it's a single projectile. What is that known as? What is that projectile known as? Shotguns usually fire cartridges containing pellets, but when it's a single projectile, what is that known as? And question 10. What gives a rifle its name and its accuracy? What gives a rifle its name and its accuracy? I'll go back over those. What is a trebuchet? In which country was gunpowder developed? Which weapon gave the English and Welsh the advantage in the Battle of Crécy? What is the difference between a nuclear and a thermonuclear bomb? What was the name of the UK's first nuclear weapon? How long was a traditional wooden police truncheon? Who in Shakespeare's plays speaks the words, "Is this a dagger I see before me"? Which city was attacked in the first instance of carpet bombing in March 1938? Shotguns usually fire cartridges containing pellets, but sometimes a single projectile known as what? And what gives a rifle its name and its accuracy? So we'll move on to the final round, which is trivia, and you'll recognise the pattern of some of this from the last trivial rounds of the other quizzes. Question 1. Which BBC journalist famously interviewed Princess Diana? Which BBC journalist famously interviewed Princess Diana? Sit. Which BBC journalist famously interviewed Princess Diana? Question 2. Who is the Chief Executive of Chesterfield Borough Council? Who is the Chief Executive of Chesterfield Borough Council? Who is the Chief Executive of Chesterfield Borough Council? Question 3. What is the name of the first newly built steam locomotive in the UK since Evening Star in 1960? Evening Star was the last steam locomotive to be built by British Rail. What was the name of the first newly built steam locomotive in the UK, which was completed, if I'm not mistaken, in 2018? May have that date wrong. But what was its name? It's been in Chesterfield many times. It's an A1 peppercorn class designed by Nigel Gresley for the LNER, and there were no peppercorn classes left. So this newly built one occupies a class all its own. Question 4. What is a 90th wedding anniversary called? What is a 90th wedding anniversary called? What is a 90th wedding anniversary called? Question 5. What was commonly the diameter of an EP record? Extended play. What was commonly the diameter of an EP record? Question 6. What is the predicted national lottery jackpot for this evening? What is the predicted national lottery jackpot for this evening? I hope I've won it because I've decided to stop playing the thing, so it'd be rather nice if I won it, and that would save me from being tempted. What is the predicted national lottery jackpot for this evening? Question 7. Who is the current MP for North East Derbyshire? Who is the current MP for North East Derbyshire? Question 8. Here's one for Pauline Packard. Did Sheffield Wednesday win their last game? Did Sheffield Wednesday win their last game? Question 9. What is the home of the Welsh national rugby team? What is the home of the Welsh national rugby team? And question 10. Does Donald Trump wear a toupee? Does Donald Trump wear a toupee? So, the trivia quiz, question 1. Which BBC journalist famously interviewed Princess Diana? Who is the Chief Executive of Chesterfield Borough Council? What is the name of the first newly built steam locomotive in the UK since Evening Star in 1960? What is a 90th wedding anniversary called? What was commonly the diameter of an EP record? What is the predicted national lottery jackpot for this evening? Who is the current MP for North East Derbyshire? Did Sheffield Wednesday win their last game? What is the home of the Welsh national rugby team? And does Donald Trump wear a toupee? So you now have the chance via the means of communication to ask for any questions you're not sure of or you would like repeated. Not for the answers yet. And then we'll have a slight break. I will go and get myself a rather stronger drink, stretch my legs, persuade the dogs they don't need to go out for the next 20 minutes or so, which is what they're agitating to do, and then we can have the answers. So I'll leave you to ask for any questions which you've missed or which you want repeated, and I will come back very shortly. So here's my glass of something, and I'll show you what it is. I brought that back from Kentucky 2 years ago, so you can tell how much of this sort of stuff I tend to drink. Although if we have another week like the last week, I shall be very tempted to start drinking it by the bottle rather than by the very occasional glass. Hello, Andrew. Anyway, cheers to you all. That's very pleasant. Can you please have the empty bottle for my deep... The problem with that is the bottle happens to be full at the moment, and the rate I drink this stuff, it'll be 20 or 30 years before before you can have the bottle. Or are you angling to have the bottle with the whiskey in it? You have the bottle with the bourbon in it. Maybe so. Unfortunately, it was a present, so I think I'd offend my friends if I gave it away. Right, let's go. Let's start with the answers. Are you all ready to start with the answers? We got 30 viewers. We're back where we were before. That's interesting. Okay, we've got round one, which is Donald Trump. Donald Trump's complexion is generally considered to be orange. The name of his current wife is Melania. His business HQ is Trump Towers. He hosted The Apprentice. His golf resort business is called Trump Golf. Joe Biden is due to replace him. Mr. Trump is not happy with this. The place where Mr. Trump's ancestors come from in Germany is called Kallstadt, Kallstadt. The name of Mr. Trump's father was Fred, and the legal procedure that's likely to take place once he leaves office is impeachment. So, poor Mr. Trump, really? Maybe so. Round two was plumbing. Americans call it a faucet, in the UK we call it a tap. Water pipes usually used to be made of lead, all the way through from Roman times, until they discovered that lead caused people brain damage. Oversing or overbath water heaters were commonly known as geysers. A bleeding key, which is the answer I gave you, is used to remove airlocks from a radiator. Flush lavatories were first used in Britain. The first patent for the floating ball cock was held by Thomas Crapper. Surprisingly enough, Thomas Crapper did not hold the first patent on the water closet, which most people think. The best known opportunistic premises plumbing pathogen is Legionella. It's a disease that inhabits the plumbing of a premises. So that's what an opportunistic premises plumbing pathogen is called, and the best known one is Legionella. Flanders and Swan called in the gas man because the gas tap wouldn't turn. The Worcester Bosch make boilers in Clay Cross, and the common name for the outfall from a water closet is the stink pipe. Hello, Millie. Millie's hiding. Millie's poking about again. Hello? Hello, Millie. Do you want to talk to people? Where are you? Hello, Millie. Is a good girl? Okay, move on to Ealing Comedies. I'd be interested to know if anybody got any of these answers. The first comedy film made in Ealing Studios following the war was Hue and Cry. The two Welsh coal miners are up in London in a run for your money for a rugby international. Why else would Welsh coal miners... Millie, don't eat books. No. The screenplay for Whiskey Galore was written by Compton Mackenzie. Alec Guinness played 9 different characters in Whiskey Galore. Sorry, I get this wrong. Millie has distracted me. Can't have her eating books. Okay, we'll go back. The screenplay for Whiskey Galore was written by Compton Mackenzie. Alec Guinness played 9 characters in Kind Hearts and Coronets. The Lavender Hill mob melted their haul of gold bullion into model Eiffel Towers. The Ealing comedy inspired by the Talyllyn Railway was the Titfield Thunderbolt. The dangerous invention in The Man in the White Suit was self-cleaning clothes. They were slightly radioactive, which meant they glowed in the dark a little, but they never ever needed cleaning. They cleaned themselves. On what play was Meet Mr. Lucifer based? Beggar My Neighbour. In The Lady Killers, it's Mrs. Wilberforce, the landlady, who ends up with all the money. And she actually tries to give it away to charity, and nobody will believe that she's got it. And it is the BBC who now own Ealing Studios. Round 4, Boris Johnson. The name of Mr. Johnson's book on Churchill is The Churchill Factor. He is alleged to have received a £500,000 advance for a book on Shakespeare. His first name is Alexander. He was known as Alex until he went to Eton. The club for well-dressed young thugs in Oxford is the Bullingdon Club. There were around 1,000, I don't mean around 1,000, a round 1,000 of his new route masters built. He was born in the USA. The newspaper which sacked him in 1987 for inventing a quote was The Times. The proportion of the required votes which he attended in his first term as MP for Henley was just over half, and in his second term it was only 45%. The Conservative Party leader who appointed him as party vice chairman and then sacked him for publicly lying was Michael Howard. And at the end of his first 3 weeks as Mayor of London, quite unbelievably, Mr. Johnson went on holiday to Turkey. You may wonder why Boris Johnson and Donald Trump are there, but whatever you think about either of them politically, they have one thing in common: they seem completely to lack an ordinary moral compass. But there we are. That's not what politics is about, is it? Or is it? Anyway, those are the questions, and we move on then to round 5. The movement which peaked in 1838 with the riots and marches is Chartism. The priest and professor F.D. Morris, the clue is in priest, was a Christian socialist. The first commune in France was set up in 1871 in Paris. The honorary president of the Second International, elected in 1893, was Friedrich Engels. The development of socialism, which took place as a result of the revolution, was communism. The successful revolution led by Fidel Castro was in Cuba. The last general secretary of the CPSU was Mikhail Gorbachev. The year the British Labour Party removed the radical parts of Clause 4 was 1995. The neo-Trotskyist group supporting Jeremy Corbyn is Momentum. And the Derbyshire Miners' holiday camp was in Skegness. So we move on to pies and stews. Now, you may argue on this one, but the referee says the essential component for a top quality pork pie is jelly. You can't have a top quality pork pie without jelly. What type of stew contains lamb and has baked slices of potato on top? It is, of course, Lancashire hot pot. The Welsh soup or stew which contains lamb is cawl, C-A-W-L. Pie Minister is based in Bristol. The pie traditionally served for Thanksgiving is a pumpkin pie. The animal's kidney used in steak and kidney pie, of course, is ox kidney. The pie in Sing a Song of Sixpence is a blackbird pie, 4 and 20 blackbirds. Desperate Dan's favourite pie is cow pie with the horns on top. The beef stew cooked in dark beer is carbonade. And the animal which is traditionally stewed in the autumn in northern Italy is donkey. And that has a very practical basis. If you are a subsistence farmer and you need a donkey to help you with your farming throughout the year, and you have very little to feed your animals on, the first thing that goes in the winter when you don't need all that heavy pulling and carrying is the donkey. So instead of feeding the donkey feeds you. So that's what is traditionally eaten at about this time in northern Italy, is donkey stew. And it is, I can tell you, delicious. Round 7, worms and feathered fowls. The psalm that contains that phrase is Psalm 148. The nonsense rhyme based on the sockburn worm is Jabberwocky. The difference between a wyvern and a conventional dragon is the wyvern has 2 legs and the conventional dragon has 4. You'll often see wyverns in coats of arms, particularly for educational establishments for some reason. The carnivorous worm, which is a threat in the UK to the common earthworm, is the brown flatworm. The rare bird that appeared in Chesterfield in 2015 is the crag martin. The bird traditionally eaten at Thanksgiving and Christmas, of course, is the turkey. The bird that gathers as a kettle is vultures. It is a kettle of vultures. I was about to say vultures have several collective nouns. One of them is a wake of vultures, but that's only applied to vultures when they're gathered around a cadaver, a corpse of something which has died. Whenever they're gathered elsewhere, it is a kettle of vultures. What does the early bird catch? Of course, it is the worm. The queen owns all the swans in England. The Welsh dragon is portrayed asleep because he is waiting to wake up in order to destroy the English. So that's why the Welsh dragon is portrayed asleep. Moving on to round 8. Clouds. What usually falls out of a nimbus is precipitation. I will take rain, snow, whatever, or water. The usual name for thunderclouds is cumulonimbus. The clouds which form a mackerel sky are cirrocumulus. The cloud which forms the low, dark, dull sky in late autumn is a stratus. The cloud which is usually stratus designated when it forms at ground level is of course fog or mist. The first known study of clouds and weather was written by Aristotle. The latitudes that tend to have the least in the way of cloud because they attract high pressure are 30 degrees north and south, which are called the horse latitudes, or the poles. You can have either of those. If you've got both of those, you can have 2 marks. The outer cloud deck of Jupiter is made up of ammonia. The lead for the departing Israelites was given by a pillar of cloud, and the pollutant that makes clouds look yellow is nitrogen dioxide. So we're getting there. A trebuchet used in sieges is a long-armed catapult. A long-armed catapult, usually used to throw large stones and rocks, but also excreta and other unpleasant things over walls. So the rocks would be thrown at the wall and the unpleasant things would be thrown over the wall if you were carrying out the siege of a castle. Gunpowder was developed in China. If you dare eat any of those, Millie, you will die. Which weapon gave the English and Welsh were given the advantage at Crecy by having a long bow? The French had crossbows. The difference between a nuclear and a thermonuclear bomb is that the nuclear bomb uses fission alone, and a thermonuclear bomb or hydrogen bomb uses fission and fusion together. And therefore it creates more heat, which is why it's called thermonuclear. So a nuclear uses fission and a thermonuclear uses fission and fusion together. The name of the UK's first nuclear weapon was Hurricane, and it was produced in 1952. That was before we were reduced to buying nuclear weapons from anywhere else. The traditional wooden police truncheon was 14 inches long. The character who speaks the words, "Is this a dagger I see before me?" of course is Macbeth. The city attacked in the first carpet bombing in March 1938 was Barcelona. Shotguns usually fire pellets, but when they fire single projectiles, those are known as slugs. Projectile is known as a slug. And a rifle is given both its name and its accuracy by the rifling, which are the grooves which are ground in the inside of the barrel, which cause the projectile, the bullet, or whatever the rifle is firing to spin, which gives it additional accuracy in the air. Okay, and we go on now to round 10. Excuse me while I wet my throat. The BBC journalist famously interviewed Princess Diana, you should know because it's been in the news, was Martin Bashir. The chief executive of Chesterfield Borough Council is Hugh Bowen. The name of the first newly built steam locomotive is Tornado. Our 90th wedding anniversary is called Emerald. An EP record is 10 inches. The predicted national lottery jackpot was 2 million. The current MP for North East Derbyshire is Lee Rowley. Sheffield Wednesday did not win their last game. It was a no-score draw against Millwall. The home of the Welsh national rugby team is the Millennium Stadium. And Donald Trump almost certainly does wear a toupee, even though he denies it. So, that is the end of this week's quiz. Those are the answers. I'll hang around a little bit if anybody wants to, any answers repeated, if anyone wants to share their scores. Bear in mind this is all a bit of fun. We're not being competitive, are we? And if you've had enough, this is your chance to let me know. If you want a quiz for next week, this is also your chance to let me know. I didn't think I was going to be able to get 10 rounds which didn't repeat what went before, but I did it for this week. So we got 41, we got 39. Trouble with an easy quiz, it is no fun. 51, oh, well. That's good. Somebody knows their clouds, obviously. $30, $61, $46, $49. Excellent. Well, I'm going to start to wind down. 41, 39. $60? Audrey. You see there, Audrey got 60. 38. I bet Audrey got full marks on the Ealing Comedies. She's gone quiet. I'm waiting for a comment now. We had 54 there. Right, well, shortly I am going to 49 there. Shortly I'm going, don't sound so shocked. I'm going to wind up and go and have a bath and go to bed. And I actually get a day off tomorrow if the various people who like to get in on my e-hop enjoyed it. If the various people that get in like to get in the way when I try to have a day off, leave me alone, then I will have a day off tomorrow. So I'm going to end the stream, and I'm very grateful to you for taking part, and I will work on one for next week. Keep a lookout for the announcements. I hope you have a pleasant evening, a good night's sleep, and I'll see you next week, if not before.